Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Math with Dr. War. I'm back with my math short videos, and today we're going to look at rational and irrational numbers. So, we consider a number to be rational if it's an integer. So, integers are your whole numbers and they're negative. So, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, those are your rational numbers. Also, there are some decimals that are rationals, such as terminating decimals, such as 0.25. That stops. That's a rational number. Also, decimals that have a repeating pattern, and you know those because they would have a bar at the top. That bar means that this 3 is going to keep repeating itself. So this number is actually 0.3333333. So if the decimal terminates, yay, rational. If it has a repeating pattern, meaning it's the same number repeating, or it could be the same two numbers. So sometimes you'll see the bar over like 25, which means it's 0.252525, and so forth. Also, fractions, and I don't care what type of fraction you are rational. Therefore, proper fractions, improper fractions, mixed numbers, or if the fraction is a negative. So as long as you're a fraction, you are rational. And let's not forget the last one, perfect squares. So you know the perfect squares because you're going to see the radical sign, right? And let's say square root of 16. Now, I know 16 is perfect because the same number multiplies itself. So 4 times 4 gives me 16. So the square root of 16 is 4. If I asked you what is the square root of 49, you would probably tell me 7. And notice that when you simplify it, you get 7. 7 is an integer. Therefore, it is rational. Now, if you're not any of these, you are certainly irrational. So it says here, if x is 2 and y is 3 square root 2 and w is 2 square root 8, which expression results in a rational number? So they give us 3 types of numbers, and then they're asking us to perform operations on these numbers. So when you perform operations, sometimes it changes the number. So you can't really go in and then look at the number and then decide. So let's see what operations they have us doing. Now, number 1 says x plus y. Okay, so x is 2, and I'm adding it to y, which is 3 square root 2. Now, would that be a rational number? Well, let's see. Now, I know 2 is an integer, so which means it's rational. I have 3 square root 2. I'm going to focus on the square root 2. 2 is not a perfect number. To get 2, the factors are 1 times 2, two different numbers. So 2 is not perfect. If you want to, you can check. Use the calculator. Second function, x squared, gives you the square root symbol. Put 2 in, go to the right. You hit enter, and I tell my students, if the calculator spits back out the same radical sign or your answer was simplified and it still has a radical sign, it means that it is irrational. Now, if you want the decimal form for this, you can press the toggle here, get 1.4142. Now, this number seems to terminate. No, it does not. It's just that a calculator is not wasting its time giving you the rest of the numbers. This is irrational. Think about it. Now, if you add a rational to an irrational, guess what you're going to get? An irrational number. All right, let's look at number 2. Number 2 says y, so we have y again. And we know that y is 3 square root 2. And we know that y is irrational. And now we're subtracting w, which is 2 square root 8. Now, focusing on that square root 8, 8 is not perfect. The factors of 8 is 2 times 4, which are two different numbers. If you want to check, get your trusty calculator again. Let's clear this. Second function, x squared, 8. Let's go to the right. You hit enter. Notice it's simplified, but we still have that radical sign. So when I see the radical sign still there, I know that it is irrational. Just for reference, suppose I have to take the square root of, let's say, 81. When I hit enter, notice I get 9, which is an integer, and you do not see a radical sign. So that's how I know that square root of 81 is rational. Okay, so that is irrational. And if you subtract two irrational numbers, what do you think you're going to get? Yeah, irrational. Let's look at number 3. So number 3, we have multiplication. Now, when it comes to multiplication, can be deceiving, especially if you're multiplying like two irrational numbers. So we know that W is 2 square root 8, and we already figured out that that is irrational. And you're multiplying by Y, which we know is irrational, which is 3 square root 2. Now, there's a rule that says when you multiply two irrational numbers, your answer could be rational or irrational. And to kind of figure that out, you're going to have to do some work. Math is very segregational. So the outside numbers are going to multiply themselves. So 2 times 3 will give me 6. The two numbers that are in the square root symbols are going to multiply themselves. Keep the square root sign, and then 8 times 2 is 16. Let's focus on that 16. Can you take the square root of 16? Yeah, I just did it for you a few minutes ago. That would give you 4. Now, these two are multiplying each other. Let me put a big old multiplication sign. When you see 6 square root 16, it means 6 multiplying by the square root of 16. We realize that square root of 16 is 4. 6 times 4 is 24. 24 is a good old integer, so your answer is rational. So our answer is number 3. Always remember, when you multiply two irrational numbers, your answer may be rational or irrational. And this only happens with multiplication and division. Now, if we want to check on number 4, you have Y, which is 3 square root 2, and you're dividing by X. Now, this is a whole different story. Now, we know this is irrational, and we know that the X is rational. Why did I write X? Let's erase that. X is actually 2. We know that's rational. So notice that an irrational divided by a rational, you guessed it, your answer would be irrational. All right, which domain? So this is kind of going into functions, but yet still they're talking about rationals and irrationals. This is the thing about the TASC math, like a lot of stuff blends with each other. So it says which domain. Okay, so you're on the TASC test. You probably have not heard that word before. Don't freak out. So it goes, which domain would be the most appropriate to use for a function that compares, and here's the important part, the number of emails sent to the amount of data used for a cell phone plan Y. Think about it. They said the number of emails being sent, and you're comparing it to the amount of data used for a cell phone. Do you think that the domain would be integers? No. And the reason I say no is because integers are positive whole numbers and they're negatives. You cannot have a negative email, like a negative amount of emails. You could delete emails, but that doesn't make it negative. So you get where I'm going. So that's why it's not an integer, because when you think about integers, up here, you have the positives and the negatives, and no one has a negative amount of emails. Like, that does not exist. Number 2 says whole numbers. Now, when you think about whole numbers, okay, whole numbers are when you have 0, 1, 2, 3, yada, 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 yada. So do you think the domain can be whole numbers? You're talking about the number of emails sent and the amount of data being used. So you're probably like, okay, I'm going to keep that in mind. Now you think rational numbers. So remember, rational numbers are your integers or decimals or fractions. Could you have a fraction of an email? Decimal of an email? No, that's not possible. And it's certainly you can't have an irrational amount of emails and a data plan. So the best answer choice here is whole numbers. Your domain would be whole numbers, because when you're comparing the number of emails sent, I probably have like 300 emails that I need to clean out of one of my email boxes. And when you think of your cell phone plan, the amount of data used, They usually tell you have 60%, 50%. So your answer is two whole numbers. So when they say which is the domain and they list these types of numbers, you have to understand what's an integer, what's a whole number, what's a rational number, what's an irrational number in order for you to answer this. And I know that this word domain kind of freaked people out, but keep reading. Don't just freak out when you see a word that you don't know. Just keep reading. They're asking you to compare emails with your data plan. Like, what kind of numbers would they be using to compare them? And it would have to be whole numbers. I hope this lesson has been helpful for you all. If the lesson was helpful to you, please like, please share, please comment. Also, I'm going to put a 5-question worksheet in the description for you to click on, and you can try some examples to see if you understand rationals or irrationals. I'm trying to make these math charts interactive, like how I did the science. So just try them. I know I went overboard with the science. I think I put 10 questions, but I'm only going to put 5 here. I'm going to keep them short because it's called math short. It's for you to try. Just click on the link, enter a name. I know people are like, you can enter a fake name. I don't really care. You just have to enter a name to actually access it. In class, when I give these types of assignments that are not graded, students would enter numbers because if they get a bad grade, they don't want me to see it. I don't know why. I'm the teacher. Like, I'm here to help you. So just enter a name. You don't have to enter your government name. You can enter a nickname, some kind of name. I'm not tracking you and I'm not gathering data. I'm just giving you a worksheet. All right, guys, have a great day. If you are not familiar with rationals and irrationals, please check out the videos at the end, and good luck on your TASC test.